A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second edition of Digipub Week by AFAX. Before we move on to the event, today is a special day for us at AFAX as we complete 22 years. What an amazing journey it has been, and thank you everyone for supporting us. Moving on to the event, Digipub Week is the online chapter of our Digipub World Convention, which is India's first conference dedicated to online publishers held annually since 2017. Starting off, I would like to thank our sponsors, presenting partner Akamai Technologies, and associate partners, and Beyond Media and Z Digital for their support. Can we please have their AVs? Thank you. Moving on to today's session, Google's cookies and web publishers. On the panel, we have Abhishek Nigam, COO Digital at Z Media, Abhishek Upadhyay, VP Digital Innovation and Strategy, Hive Minds, Pankaj Mehta, CBO, Alchemy Group, Puneet Gupta, COO Times Internet, and Puneet Singhvi, CEO Digital and President Corporate Strategy at Network 18. Welcome everyone. Now introducing you to the moderator of this session, Ashwini Gangal, Executive Editor at AFAX. Before I take off, I request the audience to please stay back after the panel discussion as we have an exclusive interview with Mr. Raghav Behel, co-founder at Quintillion Media, with Mr. Shrikant Khandekar, co-founder and director at AFAX. Once again, thank you everyone for joining. Over to you, Ashwini.
Thanks. Thank you, Debashish. Hi, everyone. Welcome, panel, and hi, audience. Now, today we're here to discuss what really seems to be the subject of the season. Okay, we're going to talk about the impact of Google's decision to phase out third-party cookies on web publishing, on programmatic media buying, and on advertising. Okay, now I agree that the moment of truth is going to really come in 2023. Because that's when this is really going to happen. However, nevertheless, let's just deconstruct this impending cookie apocalypse, or as some people call it, Chromageddon. So, because user privacy really seems to be at odds with personalization. Brand safety is all set to improve, but what about scale? How will advertisers target audiences on the internet? So, I have with me a brilliant panel. I look forward to hearing their views. And I have 40 minutes in hand. Okay. So before I go to my questions, I just want to ask my panel to take 1 minute each, maybe 2 minutes each, and just in broad strokes, talk about the implications of this cookie policy on everybody involved, on web publishing, because that is the vista and the vantage point for DigiPub. So web publishing, of course, also for advertisers and the end user or the consumer of content as well. So we'll start anywhere. We can start with Puneet Gupta.
Thanks, Ashwini. See, the demise of the third-party cookie really means that everyone have to bake their own cookies now.
Right.
Right. You can't pick up anyone else's cookies and enjoy. Right.
Yeah.
So for the publisher, it's a great opportunity to create a direct relationship with the users that come on the site. For the users, it gives a great option to have consent-based data mechanism where I share what I'm interested to share with the parties that I believe and trust in. For the advertisers, there is going to be a short-term challenge, which will get resolved with alternate mechanisms that are coming up. There is going to be a challenge with alternate mechanisms because unlike a third-party cookie that works seamlessly, you don't have to sign up for it. On third-party user ID mechanisms, you will have to enroll or opt in and make some technical integration. So that is going to be slow and time-consuming. But overall, that's how the ecosystem will shape up. I'll keep it brief so other people can come in.
Yeah, I will come back to you about all these alternative data sources. But before that, we can go to Pankaj.
Ashwini. So I think keeping in mind that the world was moving anyways towards the GDPR way. If you look at Europe and you look at what's happening there, I think it was about time where the internet, especially when you look at the website, would become cookieless. So it was inevitable. It was the way we were progressing. I think this was something which was bound to happen. Keeping that in mind, and the fact that Google has pushed this by 2 years, I think there's enough time for publishers, advertisers, technology providers to adapt, test, and to come up with alternate solutions that can be almost as effective as when we had the cookies. And as we all know, there's definitely going to be a rise of contextual and intent-based advertising. I think those are going to be the two new buzzwords over the next 2 years that we're going to keep hearing, and a lot of providers are going to focus back on these pillars to rebuild their stacks back for the advertiser and for the publisher. So yeah.
Great. I will come back to you. I have a lot of questions. Abhishek Nigam.
Thanks, Ashwini. I think it's the topic of discussion for all the advertiser-based revenue models that exist, including the publishers that we have.
Yeah.
And it's the next phase of evolution that we are seeing.
Yeah.
If you see, user privacy has always been a concern, and the way the cookie-based model has been exploited, it has been coming for a long time. But there's an opportunity that exists for the publishers, for the ad providers. Of course, there's a concern, but for the publishers, it's an opportunity also. If you see, we are a 300 million plus users plus platform. We have those users who are coming to us, and as Puneet Gupta also said, that if we create our own cookies, then it gives us a lot of opportunity to actually get into the next phase of evolution as a publisher also.
Right.
300 million is not a small number. The second thing which also relates without even having the user profile in place is something like the contextual targeting. The next level of contextual targeting can happen using various AI machine learning models, which even the Google is working on using its FLoC-based algorithm. Those kind of evolutions can happen at the publisher, and also it gives a great opportunity for publishers to move to the next level of technology and solve this particular issue for themselves. I think the rest I will take for the later.
Absolutely, understood. I'll go to Puneet Singhvi.
Yeah, hi Ashwini. So as you said, that we've been talking about it for a couple of years, and a lot of publishers in our ecosystem have already implemented plans or are far out in their in their planning and implementation process on getting to know their audience more. And and that's not necessarily an impact of cookies going up, it's also an impact of a business requirement. So I think that exercise will actually give a lot more enriched data. The first party data is that much more enriched, reliable, and validated rather than it being heuristic. The other side of it is it would be broken because it would be multiple parties having first party data. And that's the challenge, as Puneet talked about earlier, for the advertisers, is how do you use what used to be a common currency of validation of audience habits or user behavior and hence do a targeting. But for publishers like ourselves and like a few of us here who have scale, I think that's a big advantage that comes up. And if you see the overall ecosystem, it's not very different from being in an app. And all of us who have a fairly evolved app strategy, and we have a first-hand experience of collecting a lot of those user habits and user data within our ecosystem. So I think it's just an extension of that to the core platform of web, and then build it out from there. And finally, I think the other thing that it does is the enriching of content targeting, content personalization, which is, again, since the data is a lot more enriched, a lot more accurate, a lot more validated, the targeting of content is likely to be a lot that much sharper.
Understood. Great. Abhishek Upadhyay.
Hi. I think there was an initial scare when the whole cookies going away, etc. The news came about. I think performance marketers especially were quite worried because my conversion rates are going to drop. I'm not able to track my performance as much through the entire funnel, etc. Right? I think people who were targeting from a larger content affinity sort of a way or across larger target audiences, I don't think much has changed. Still, it's where precision targeting was required, or marketers were looking at, say, heavy performance or full funnel attribution. They are sort of facing a bit of a scare. But I think the kind of pace at which the likes of Facebook or Google, as well as a pool of publisher networks, etc., evolved to create solutions that can not be a perfect replacement, but at least get 80-95% of where we were before. I think that's the sort of evolution that we've been seeing. And I personally don't see much of a scare. All the hyperboles, I think we can excuse. And one good thing we've seen is this kind of the golden age of digital. There's a lot of monies that is moving from traditional to digital right now. A lot of publishers here might be happy for that. And with that I think we're definitely seeing more targeting and better targeting on digital compared to what's been there on traditional. So overall, the marketer is happier in that sense compared to what they were before.
Okay. No, thanks for that. See, I don't mean to be alarmist, okay, not in terms of a scare, but I'd like everyone to react to this. What happens to will this doing away of third-party cookies really hurt the long tail of advertisers and the smaller publishers? Mr. Singhvi mentioned publishers of scale having an advantage because they can build their communities and all of that. But what happens to the smaller publishers? Will this development increase the gap between small and large web publishers and worsen the caste system in web publishing?
I feel there's a lot of the small publishers as well as the small advertisers rather do need to be heard. And I believe all of the Facebook alarmist ads against Apple were along these lines. So saying, oh, the small advertiser is going to get hurt, please bring this system back, etc. But what I also see from publisher side is I think they're going to concentrate on some of these niche communities, niche content groups, etc., and build content so that they can also boast saying, okay, we have artisanal coffee loving communities on our group. We like these beer consuming communities on our group. And next time a brand of that nature, a D2C brand comes along, they have someone to talk to them. I think this one-to-one matching at a large scale might happen. You might need to staff your content communities a lot more, but I think this might happen, is at least what I hope. That if you want to replace the walled gardens, I think you need to give them what the walled gardens have.
And again, Mr. Gupta, what do you think? Because I think larger publishers are better placed to create their own walled gardens. What happens to the smaller ones? Your reaction to the caste system?
So, see, let's just think about third-party cookies for a moment, right? You go to a website and suddenly start to see similar ads everywhere else you go, right? So most people are surprised when this happens. The users are surprised, legislators don't like it, and the platforms don't need it. They have a huge wealth of first-party data. So there is an eventual disappearance of the third-party cookie that is going to happen. Now, does it create a large chasm between the haves and the have-nots? Right? As I said, right? And I'll again use the same analogy. I'm in a cafe, I'm in a publisher cafe, and the publisher gave me a cookie, but an ad network saw what I was eating, and then I got targeted with the choco chunks on the cookie somewhere, right? But what is the alternative? The alternative is that I give consent to say, hey, create an ID of Puneet and please tell your partners to say Puneet likes double choco chunk cookies. And that is what is going to happen. The data is not going away anywhere, right? Instead of third-party cookies, we will have third-party data. Instead of real-time data exchange from the front end when the user is browsing, we may have latent exchange of data from behind the scenes for users who have given their consent. So nothing is going away. If you think in the larger scheme of things, when a user ID solution comes into picture, right, nothing goes away. So there is no chasm that gets created or chasm that increases with the solutions coming in place. If the solutions don't come in place, then certainly the publishers who have a lot of data, first-party data, will benefit.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Mrs. Singhi, what do you think? Because, the walled garden criticism already exists, but will this phasing out of third-party cookies, again, make it like a big tech versus the open web kind of discussion? What happens then to the open web?
I think there are two parts to it. Big tech is definitely the core, but it's also about the trust, as in where do you consent to share your data. A lot of this is being picked up without your consent in 80-90% of the cases of whatever you're surfing on the internet. So that's the second part, and those two factors is what make me believe that there will be an ecosystem where let's say a trust in a News 18 or a Times of India or a Z News is likely to be a lot higher compared to xyznews.com or something like that. Not to put down any other publisher, it's just the generic user habit.
Yeah.
And that combined with the capability to be able to scale and invest in the tech to build up that data. The second thing is, I just wanted to pick up Puneet's example, Puneet's point on, he's right when he says that there will be a solution, and that solution, Flock is already, everyone's talking about Flock and what Google is doing. At the end of the day, Google's biggest revenue stream continues to be advertising. I mean, at least till cloud takes over and becomes very big. So, I would be very surprised if there isn't a solution which addresses parts of this or all of it in some form or manner. We're already seeing example of that happening in all of whoever's using the iPhone or the iOS. They've given primary importance to user privacy, and they have you can opt out of any sort of tracking and all that. But that doesn't mean that you stop seeing ads on your iOS devices or the apps that you use. There will be solutions that will evolve. So the walled garden that we have to actually really worry about is the Googles and the Facebooks and the iOSs of the world rather than individual. All of us, as I said, we have been building, or we will be building our own data lakes and data ecosystems.
That's right.
And that's true for advertising. That's also true for just the general growth of our business. Whoever's looking at subscriptions, transaction revenues, and all that. That's a natural next step for all of us.
Right. No, I'm very happy you mentioned Flock, because I think we all need to discuss Flock for a few minutes. That's federated learning of cohorts. I find it so ironic that over the last few years, we've been talking about how digital marketing and targeting is down to the individual. It's so precise and laser focused. And now we're moving towards, cluster level targeting. So Mr. Upadhyay, what do you think of Flock? Is it just completely backwards now because we're looking at behavioral cohorts and we'll be targeting people based on their belongingness to a particular group, which goes into thousands. So their data is safe, but it's like de-individuation at some
Correct. So I think the first time I read the release and the slightly harder to understand paper that came along with it, I felt it was a more natural progression. I think we were overdoing on the targeting bit for a while. Did I really need to know that Ramesh, 29-year-old, who was bought a MG Hector, is trying to buy my platinum credit card? Or am I happy with the fact that people of 25 to 34 in Bangalore who like luxury cars prefer my credit card? I think that balance, I think we were overdoing it for a while. I think it's come to the right side of balance now. If my performance doesn't change too much, I really do not need to know that that person's name is Ramesh and he's doing something.
That's interesting, very interesting. Mr. Nigam, Pankaj, what do you think? What do you make of this kind of aggregated targeting? Are we losing something very precious in a bid to protect individual data?
Not really, actually. Not really. I completely agree to what Abhishek was saying. Getting to know the guy is 24 to 30 interested in this is a good enough audience layer targeting that any campaign manager can use to get effectiveness on the campaign. But and I genuinely believe that cohorts as a mechanism will over time hopefully prove more efficiency in a lot of ways, because the big data will also reduce the amount of data sets and points we are keeping within the whole ecosystem will reduce, which means efficiencies would improve at a lot of other places, which we are probably not unable to see at this point. But in a mid to long term scenario, it will bounce back and probably be far more effective, at least the way I look at it.
That's interesting. Okay. Mr. Nigam, what do you think? What do you make of Flock? And just to add another question to that, because if everyone migrates to Flock, the walled garden discussion is again strengthened. So Google benefits, but what happens to the open web then? So both questions really.
So to the first question, I think it's not we are moving back. It's actually the evolved version of the collaborative filtering model that is working. And that's like a technical way of saying understanding things. Earlier, you used to have 5 or 10 different parameters against which you used to create these clusters or these categories, and we used to target the users. When you're talking about Flock kind of a model, you're talking about actually in the AI/ML space, you're talking about attributes that range that can go to the range of like 300 to 500 attributes for a given user against which the collaborative filtering can work. Against the product attributes, product or content attributes also, again in that range. So that's the next level of evolution that's happening on which Google is working. Now, having said that, Flock being there, how it will impact, of course, it will create a lot of more precision for Google in terms of targeting the users.
Absolutely.
Which will improve a lot of accuracy for them. And for the advertisers who are advertising on the Google platforms. It's like a very good win for Google. For the other players, of course, now it's becoming more of a technology play.
Yes.
So it's the next level of evolution that has happened. It's not going backwards. So we have to understand that. And so we need to also evolve to that level where we start competing in that area. And then I think, as Puneet also said, a lot of revenue is going to Google even now. Now with this, it's actually getting to the next level, and that is in the new area, like 3 years or 5 years down the line. Now we'll have to see how we also evolve ourselves to create a value proposition for ourselves in the new structure that will come up. What was the second question? I missed the second one.
It's the same thing really, that, is Flock really good? Because if we migrate to that, what happens to the earlier point I raised about, big tech benefiting? What happens to the open web? Are we increasing the the gap between these two?
To that, I would say probably yes, depending on for the long tail advertisers.
Absolutely.
It would be a difficult thing because it's in the area of like where you have increasing returns in the technology play. It's like increasing returns you get of the investments you make. They're not like diminishing returns you see.
Yes.
So that would be there. So of course it would be that for short, but the small advertisers. For small publishers, I think they would be able to evolve, and small advertisers, they will have to strive to figure out a position for themselves. Big advertisers are already working in that area. Lotme or BlueKai or anyone, they are all working in that area. Big publishers, as we discussed initially, I think we are talking like 300 million plus users, and we need to create those structures where we can start getting the first party data. And we start also working on our product attributes, also product or content attributes of like 300 dimensional product and content attributes to see like how that is working. And then integrating the two, we can actually create a differentiated web value proposition for the big publishers.
Yeah. More than small, big, it's like the ones who really depend on programmatic and third-party cookies to target. So
yeah,
put it that way without a value judgment, right?
We can
So Ashwini, I had a somewhat not counter, but somewhat realistic, but maybe a controversial point on this. But just want to put it out there. We're talking about Flock, and that's really a very one-dimensional way to look at how the advertising and publisher ecosystem, or let's say advertising ecosystem will evolve. And when we say Flock and advertising ecosystem, it is Google and publishers, content publishers, and all of those things. And when we talk of advertising, we've been talking about Google, Facebook, and all that. Really one of the fastest growing and one of the largest companies with largest advertising revenue is Amazon, which has eons and eons of much richer data. All with consent and with intent that they are reaching on, they are sitting on, and they have been exploiting. And if you follow any of the topics, any of the articles on how Amazon's advertising business is growing, and they are actually coming the other way. They are now starting to enrich stuff that they have around e-commerce with content and everything.
That's
so. It will, from a macro perspective also, it will be important for a solution that is evolved, that takes the industry forward rather than breaking it down. My limited view, I may be completely wrong depending on what pans out in 3 years' time, but we'll all see. Just for thought, I'll put it out there.
Yeah, no, sure.
Riffing off on that Amazon idea, I think the likes of Amazon DSP or Paytm DSP and Flipkart, etc., bringing that data back to the web, the open web in that sense, for bringing back traffic to their own platforms, I understand, but it's still bringing that quality of data back on advertising on open web. I think that is the kind of system that we are seeing. So anyone who's sitting on a lot of quality first-party data would start to monetize it in this way. And if you're large enough a player like say Amazon or Flipkart, etc., you can actually create traditional sort of, normal advertising systems, and it will run on your regular publisher networks, OTTs, etc., and bring that traffic back to Amazon. And if you notice a trend, it's not necessarily that people who sell on Amazon themselves. These are brands which are maybe insurance companies or car brands and real estate brands, etc., who are also using Amazon data to say advertise on the likes of Z and Times Internet and so on.
That is interesting, right? No, I want to just switch gears at this point though and talk about user experience, because someone mentioned opting in and users giving their consent. I'm mixed about this, because on the one hand, yes, consent is good, but on the other, it spoils the user experience logging in, signing in to something. That's one. So is that a trade-off publishers have to live with? That's the first question. And the second question is, I have a sense of giving consent before I even know whether that content is of value to me. So is that, how do we tide over that? How do publishers really tackle that? Or again, is that something that we have to live with? So Pankil, Mr. Gupta.
I can come in.
Okay.
So consent is always good, right? Let's say, and I am talking both as a publisher and as a consumer, right? As a consumer, I know how my data is going to be used. So I have more faith in the publisher that I'm now reaching out or browsing, that their consent has been sought. So at least the violation of consent will not happen. It's an informed consent. It has been showed in in the prescribed manner of how the data is going to be collected and where it is going to be used.
Yeah.
And I have an option to opt out.
That's
right. So from a consumer side, it's a win for me. For a publisher, it brings to focus the direct relationship that publishers should have created with their consumers long back that they didn't. And this will accelerate that adoption or creation of that relationship. Right? The business models were driven by getting a consumer, knowing a consumer, and then showing an ad. It was never knowing a consumer one-on-one, and then building and nurturing a relationship and then creating value.
That's right.
But what this has accelerated is the need to create a relationship with the consumer and then show that you can create value in an environment of trust.
Yeah.
It works well.
Just to add to that, I think I think content is going to become king, right? Which is always the case. But now it's going to become the need of the hour is even more, because exactly what Puneet said, to build relationships with the user, to build that trust, they want to see that quality content. There should be a need and a desire for them to keep coming back to you and ready to even accept any terms that you might put on the site before they consume that content. And therefore, content will play a vital role. Whether you talk about a smaller publisher who probably will need to get into more niche contents and broken down context so that contextual and all other forms of advertising can also work more effectively. And whether it's a large publisher, regaining and building that trust, with the user and making them feel like that's the point of destination that they want to come and consume the content become that much more important.
No, sure, Pankaj. So I'm with you on the zero-party data being important and that one-to-one relationship with the user, sure. But what happens to the user experience when I have to log in and opt in? Is that a trade-off publishers have to live with?
Absolutely.
Or is there a way to make it better?
I think they will have to live with it, and I think there is also certain drawbacks for the publisher when it comes to user experience, because when you're giving consent, and let's take Times or let's take Network 18 where they have multiple sites. Earlier, I could cookie the user and cross-utilize it across all my sites to benefit from it. Now that when I'm talking about consent, it could be consent on their primary site where someone wants to consume content. But when it comes to their long tail sites, which may be another 10, 20, 30 sites, the ball game might be completely different. So it is a trade-off. It is a trade-off for the publisher, but I think I would still go to what Puneet Gupta is saying. The user still has the power, it's still given the choice. He gives the consent, and therefore I think it's a win situation from a user's perspective.
Okay, sure.
So the consent is only one time, so it's not a break in the consumer experience. Had the consent been on every session, it would have been a challenge.
Sure.
That's a
But
good
the consent is once, and the credentials can still be stored on first-party data, right? First-party cookies, because they're not going away anywhere.
Yes. Sure. Okay. Now we have just enough time for closing remarks, and I want to end on this note. Now by 2023, what should the ecosystem do to prepare between now and then? Okay. So I have a list, cookie list, artificial intelligence, build an ecosystem of ID providers, invest in new types of data sources. I'd like to hear from you what they can be. Maybe create a consortium of publishers who can create best practices and standards for how to deal with data ethically. That could be another one. And also, maybe we can work together and weed out potentially dangerous practices like device fingerprinting in the process. So what do we need to do between now and 2023?
I'll go first, and I'll end with what I started with, right? For publishers, it's time to bake your own cookies, right? Create direct relationships, strong relationship with your consumers in an environment of trust.
Okay, fine, sure. Mr. Nigam, before you go.
I agree. Like first is create your own cookie or user identifier. I would say cookie is one way of identifier, and try to get as much data as possible, and then what you said, AI ML solutions, if you can develop. As a publisher, we have a lot of opportunity now. And I would also want to add one thing to the last comment that you made, or the last question. If you see it from a user's perspective, it's a win-win only for him. Because as a user, because the publisher now knows the user well, user has privacy policies in place. So for the user, it's a very good user experience that will come up, which actually is the base that Google is also trying to push ahead, and which makes sense also to an extent.
Yeah, sure. Mr. Upadhyay, but what happens to the advertiser?
I think
what should the advertiser do to create maybe their own first-party data banks?
I think that happened to a large extent in the past 2 years. People knew a lot of things were moving digital. People did invest.
More or less, it is sorted, Manoj. We'll revert by today evening.
So marketers as well as agencies invested into a lot of efforts into creating the first party data. But what I think still is a hindrance or a slightly hesitation is to which publishers can I share that data with? How do I share that data with? And how can I work? Because in the case of say a programmatic ecosystem, or in the case of Google or Facebook, for whatever there is that frenemy relation that's already built that I'm okay to share that data with, and it's somewhat safe in some way. Right, but I'm okay with say publisher 1, publisher 2 because there's a long-standing relationship. What about a new publisher? I want to work with say 50 publishers. I think that hesitancy is what is going to cause. Even if I have the data, I don't think I'll be using it with a lot of publishers because I'm very hesitant about it. And because these are sometimes sensitive information, it could be banking data or where rules do not permit me to share it with people. Right, so that's where my worry lies. And if that can be solved in some neutral, audited third-party consortium, which says, okay, I'm going to be your data exchange between the publisher and this thing. Publisher is not going to see your data. All they are going to do is verify, okay, he's the same flock or it's the same content ID that you said it is going to be. And I get a similar verification. I think I'm happy. I am personally not too keen on sharing it with 100 publishers.
Okay, that sounds utopic almost. Mr. Singhvi, do you agree? And Pankil, you as well. We have about 2 minutes to go, so 1 minute each. What should we do as an ecosystem to prepare?
Very quickly, I am not sure of agencies and advertisers sitting on user data like banking information and all of that from a ethical and legal perspective. So it's it's important for us publishers to, while we develop our own technologies or solutions to mine and build the first party data, it is important to engage and have a larger discussion in a bigger forum, especially with the large advertiser set and the agencies, on how are they looking at this thing, because this is a very one-dimensional view of things. If we have to look at let's say GroupMs and the Dentsus and the Amazons and all of these of the world, who are huge advertisers and who are big customers for us, sort of engagement with them on how are they looking at the evolving situation, because it's not a publisher only thing, it's not an advertiser only thing. So that those two things will have to be done. Do your own build up, but at the same time have a engagement with the larger forum on how are they seeing the evolution and how does the larger advertising industry get impacted.
Understood. Pankil, what do we need? Consent management platforms?
I think I would look at it from a technology standpoint, sitting right in the center, between the publisher and the advertiser, and say that, alternate identifiers will become key. Testing will become key. You still have globally about 33% non-Chrome users globally sitting out. You can do a lot of testing on that because, it's cookieless already there. And whatever learnings you get over there, you can adapt them for the Chrome environment, and therefore the effectiveness of that would be a lot more before hell breaks loose. So
got it. So no Chromageddon just yet.
Not yet.
Fantastic.
I would just want to add that multiple ID providers is the key there, because you don't know what is the standard that is going to emerge.
Standardization will be key. Exactly. I think standardization
will be key. That is going to happen ultimately. But in that process, both publishers and advertisers will have to integrate with multiple ID providers.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. That's all we have time for. Audience, please hang back. We have an exclusive interview coming up with Raghav Behl. Insightful discussion. I learned a lot. Thank you very much. Bye. That's all from me.